Yeah, why is he doing bad? What's going on there? We're in Huntington Beach, MAGA town.
I know, but I'm not a MAGA person.
It's okay. That's okay. That's okay. So, what are you not happy with?
I think that he doesn't pay a lot of attention to international events like he should.
Okay.
And
Foreign policy, you're just not very pleased with?
Well, yeah, he'll get involved in something and then he'll get out, and then he doesn't seem to have an overall plan for what he wants to do.
Do you mind if I ask, who was better with that, Joe Biden or Donald Trump? I mean, it's not like you're a Joe Biden stan, right? But was Joe Biden better than Trump at that when it comes to?
Well, he had an overall plan, Okay, we want to have democracy. We want to don't have other countries build up too much, and we want to have our alliances. We had an overall thought about. So when he acted in furtherance of those plans.
Yeah.
Whereas it seems like Donald Trump, some of his reactions are good, some are not good, but he just kind of is reactive.
People have been talking about them putting an end to several wars so far in a matter of 7 months. You have Azerbaijan, you have Congo, you have a handful of wars and ceasefires that the United States has, directly been involved in. Do you think that was good, or are you mainly just looking at maybe Ukraine and Gaza?
Ukraine and
he. So would he need to fix? He did say day one, week one, or whatever he said he would put an end to it. Hasn't done that.
No.
But in 7 months, didn't that start under the Biden administration?
Well,
so
he's
where you
allowing Putin to gain more and more territory, so Putin is going to be in a better bargaining position. He's just sort of letting that happen by not doing anything, and not following up on the threats he made with more sanctions. He punishes India, but he doesn't do anything with Russia.
I will clarify one thing. When it comes down to that, we don't do business with Russia. They don't really care the effects that these things have on their citizens. They're very different from, let's say, China, but also India as well. The United States can leverage their position and their trade with India, hurt them, because India does business with who? Yeah. Russia, right? So I think that's kind of why they're going after some of the partners there. But interesting perspective there. Anything outside of foreign policy that you're not happy with? By the way, this is Priya. She is a Trump supporter.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you.
Are you friends with Trump supporters?
I am friends with Trump supporters. I'm from Michigan. A lot of my friends that I grew up with are Trump supporters.
Okay.
And I think of myself as a person who listens. I'm from the Midwest. I understand a lot of the concerns about unemployment. I understand a lot of the concerns about manufacturing. I honestly have no idea whether tariffs will work or not. I don't have a strong feeling,
I really appreciate your honesty on that, because I think a lot of people aren't really sure how to feel. I guess we'll see if they fail. We'll see if they're successful.
Yeah, I'm open-minded. I'm open-minded. Okay. I think they could work. They would work in the long term. I don't know if they'd work in 3 years. So, I'm open-minded.
Okay. What an interesting person that we've run into here, because, I could tell, the reason I asked that is because I could tell the way you're speaking, it seems as though maybe you have some friends that are Republicans, because sometimes when people have, different friends with different political views, they tend to behave differently in political conversations. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of friends who think, that manufacturing jobs leaving is terrible, and who think that people don't make enough, and who think that, we're importing too much. And I don't know that I have that point of view, but I understand it. I also,
You can weigh in if you want.
Yeah, I don't like seeing, a lot of. I teach, so I have a lot of students, and it's stressful for a lot of their families going through some of this immigration stuff. I don't know how I feel about immigration, but I don't necessarily think they need to be having this much stress. And the other thing I would say is...
Well, do you mind if we unpack some of that? Did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, what do you think on a personal level? What do you think should be the punishment for entering the country illegally?
I don't even know it's about punishment as much as we need to figure out how much of a labor market we need, because we have an aging population, you know what I mean? And so baby boomers are going to hit.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I clarify something right there,
Sure.
though? So we have roughly 7 to 8 million working-age unemployed men in this country.
Right.
We have plenty of jobs that might become available if they're not being filled by illegal immigration, right? Do you think we have a duty to...
It's possible. I was listening to an economics report last night, two things, and they actually say having immigrants causes more jobs because they hire other people, right? So but that's aside. But as far as the 7 million people, I don't know where they are. You know, they had this program in Georgia where they would allow parolees to do what the farm workers were doing, and they couldn't get any people who were paroled to do this job.
The farm workers is an interesting one. There's a lot of visa programs that can help out farm workers and all that. On farm, this is such an obscure statistic, but for some reason I have it in my head. On farm workers in the United States, about like 2.7 million or so. They're not all illegal, right? But there's about 2.7 million. Illegal immigrants in the country is like 20 to 30 million people. The majority of them are actually in cities, right? They collect welfare. They cost hundreds of billions of dollars per year.
I've heard hospitality. I've heard agriculture, Imperial Valley. I've heard construction. So I've heard varying numbers on those. I'm not saying your numbers are wrong. I've heard more about 4 million are in agriculture. 4 million are in agriculture.
I said on farm.
Oh, okay.
So I'm talking about the people that are picking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've heard about.
That's why I said that's why I prefaced it with it was an obscure stat.
Yeah.
I'm talking about specifically the people that are picking.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to me fundamentally, Trump or not Trump. Congress needs to pass a statute. Congress doesn't want to because it's political or it can't. So we're just kind of winging it with immigration. We're just coming up with, okay, this president's going to do this, and then we're going to reverse it and do this, and then we're going to reverse it and do that.
Super quick. When it comes down to that, you're talking about winging it, right? We have a lot of the laws on the books right now when it comes to enforcement of illegal immigrants and people that are in the country illegally and all that stuff, enforcing the southern border. And over the last 4 years, they loosened up on a lot of that, almost everything. And we saw the worst border crisis in American history by all available data, okay? Millions of people coming over the southern border. The border crisis, starting week 1 of the Trump administration, because obviously it's no surprise, they strengthen immigration and enforcement and all that stuff. The border crisis evaporated. Now, what are some of the negatives of the border crisis? Record-breaking profits for cartels because they're involved in trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, and all this stuff. I mean, I'm not trying to be like, I'm not making stuff up. It's even worse than I'm making it sound. Down at the southern border, it's horrifying. Record deaths down at the southern border.
There are border issues.
So the entire ecosystem is what I'm getting at of you probably don't want to be encouraging more of that because it just so happens that enriching cartels is a bad idea.
And it's not safe for the
people
who are coming.
It's not safe for anybody.
For people who are coming, but we're not.
And for Americans.
We don't have stability. I mean, because the president is in charge of Homeland Security, he can just decide where he wants to have detention centers, how he wants to have detention centers, who's going to go in them for how long. That should not change from president to president. That needs to be stable, because otherwise people are going to be guessing about what the policy is.
The executive branch is in charge of that, though. So if the executive branch, as we
but
saw,
they're supposed to follow what the legislative branch. They're supposed to give them laws. He's just winging it with executive orders, and that's not a stable way to run government.
Well, what are you talking about specifically then?
Okay, where do we put?
Because this is within Donald Trump's Article 2 powers of being able to basically protect the homeland, right?
Right.
So if you don't want a bunch of millions of people flooding the country, that's your job. That's the federal government's job,
right? The thing is,
right?
in 3 years, that's all gone. Next president, boom, all that's gone. Yeah. Day one. So it's not stable. So people are kind of guessing.
Well, if you enforce the laws, it is stable. That's the thing.
Only for those 3 years. We're gonna have, God willing, we're gonna have another president in 3 years who's gonna make another executive order. It's just not a good way to govern, in my mind.
Yeah, but
I don't think that there should be. Immigration is complicated. I don't think MAGA supporters have a simple view on this, and I don't think they have a simple view on trade and tariff. I think these are complicated issues.
You're right. But when it comes down to immigration enforcement, the thing I was going to mention really quick is these laws are already on the books, right? They're already 8 U.S. Code 1325, illegal entry by alien, right?
But the devil's in the details. The details are the regulations, and the regulations are made by Homeland Security.
Yeah, of course. So that's what we saw over the last 4 years is they really weren't enforcing the rules that were already on the books. So what's your argument, though? You want Congress to create a bill that does what? Because all that stuff, immigration enforcement, these are already the laws.
Hits the specifics.
So maybe a little bit more
for example, if we say, okay, you can be here for 2 years if there's a disaster, with Venezuela and Haiti. Say what a disaster is. Is it a disaster gangs? Is it a disaster earthquakes? So you don't have randomly people here, if you say asylum is for this or that, say it's for the government persecuting people, or say it's for gangs. Have specific rules so that they don't move all the time. Yeah, there's a law, but within there's so much movement.
No, I mean, you're right. It is complex. I think a lot of it's pretty consistent. There's immigration enforcement. ICE has been around since, 2003? Before that, you had other immigration enforcement,
right.
But all that's been fairly consistent. You're talking about the tiny little things that can switch up every 4 years, basically.
Yeah.
And you want a little bit more clarity, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay.
Because then you don't have a president whose sole issue is immigration. You have a president who, maybe one of their issues is immigration, but if immigration is made by Congress inconsistent, we don't have this, chaotic back and forth, But
it's what's it called? It's like ping. It's a game of ping pong with administrations when it comes to immigration.
Yeah, so that's the way I mean, and I have empathy for a lot of people. I have empathy for people who don't have the jobs. Like I said, I'm from the Midwest. I have empathy for people whose wages haven't gone up. I have empathy for people who don't have health care. I have empathy for people who, can't buy a house. I have empathy but I also have empathy for, people who grow up here their whole life, mistakenly get taken by ICE, and then they're afraid for their mom to go out of the house because, what if she gets taken and is gone for 3 days? I mean, that's everybody has to have empathy for that. I mean,
that's a total bummer. I will take that all day over a humanitarian crisis at the border, though. You know what I mean? It's like people get wrongfully arrested. What's your argument there, right? Oh, get rid of the police department? No, you wouldn't say that, right? I wouldn't say that. But I do see what you're saying. I mean, obviously that's a bummer. Maybe Eric, don't hang around day laborers that are gangbanging at some random store, and then you probably don't get in trouble. And then when they show up, don't run away.
Yeah, but I don't know if somebody was. I have to say, if somebody pulled up with,
it's a targeted raid. If you're there, you're kind of in a weird spot, anyways.
I mean, I'm not Hispanic, so I don't experience this. But if somebody pulled up with a truck and men with masks and they were shouting and running after me, you know what my first reaction's going to be?
If you're an illegal, probably ICE.
If I'm anybody with any instincts, I mean...
You're going to run away.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work as a government lawyer, so I would be not like that. But most people would, if they're terrified, they're going to run away. And that's, I mean...
They have police lights and stuff and police badges on?
I was going to say, you as a law-abiding citizen, you would still have the instinct to run away from law enforcement?
I, maybe less than some, but you still got, men with masks, chaos, a van. This is LA.
A lot of people bring that up. I really don't think they look like nobodies. I think they look like federal agents.
Yeah,
honestly.
They look like federal agents. The vehicles are marked.
That's an opinion. That's a matter of opinion.
Well, I don't know. It hasn't happened to me, so I can't say. But there is that.
Hopefully it doesn't, huh?
Yeah, but you have to look at that from a very human aspect too. So Trump's other things.
Let's look at. A lot of people bring this stuff up, and I think it's really interesting because a lot of people focus on the enforcement, right? I think reasonably so. The media, we have a biased media, they fixate on it. But also, oh my gosh, arrests are ramping up, and arrests are spooky, right? You watch anybody getting arrested, everyone's looking at it like, holy crap, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
but we're talking about sympathetic. What about, over the last 4 years, millions of people coming in, unvetted mass migration, getting Americans and murdered? Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungari.
I'm not going to say that hasn't happened, but immigrants are on a whole less likely statistically to commit crimes because...
Do you think if I brought up to Jocelyn Nungari, right, Tren de Aragua gang members aren't supposed to be in the country in the first place. They came in, were released by Border Patrol, 3 weeks later, and murdered Jocelyn Nungari. Do you think if I told her parents, statistically, they're less likely to do that, do you think that they would be like, hey, that's really cool, I love math? Or do you think they would say, they weren't supposed to be here in the first place, and it's the government's job to protect my daughter? What do you think?
You wouldn't be asking her parents to make policy because they're not. They're not.
But honest question. I know it's a brutal question, but it's also a brutal topic.
It's the same thing as
do you see what I'm saying?
Debate to John Kerry. What if your wife was raped and murdered? Wouldn't you want capital punishment? That's why we don't have vendettas.
I'm so sorry. My point of bringing that up is the government didn't do their job. And those people aren't supposed to be in the country in the first place. If the government did its job, which, by the way, is their primary job, is protecting the American people. That's their main job. If they did their job, she would still be here today. Rachel Morin would still be a mother today. You have all these people. And, we actually just interviewed, and I'm not trying to use I feel terrible bringing this stuff up, but we just interviewed a gentleman the other day. He was from Seal Beach. We were talking about immigration again because that's what everyone talks about, right? You brought it up. But he was telling me, okay, well, my son was driving with his girlfriend, and they got hit by a drunk driver that was in the country illegally, killed both of them. That man, when I was talking to him, I mean, I'm almost like tearing up interviewing this guy, okay? And I'm being honest with you. He does not care about the statistics that maybe they have a slightly lower crime rate than the Asian community in Irvine. He doesn't care. The guy wasn't supposed to be here, and he killed his son. And that is a horrifying reality that I don't want to encourage, right? We're not talking about like constitutional amendments or something. We're talking about like literal just what the government's supposed to do, and those people aren't supposed to be here. Sorry for hitting that so hard, but
I don't have an actual answer for how drinking and driving is going.
Do you see my point, though? Do you understand my point?
But I mean, I don't have the data for that kind of thing. Yeah, I see your point, and I don't have the solution for this, but I know that this
enforcement of the current laws, maybe.
Well, enforcement of the current laws, but they threw a random teacher in who is a citizen in isolation for 3 days up near Oxnard, and then they said that he threw something at the ICE agents, in which they looked at the video and he didn't. The ICE agents lied.
Should we look up this case?
Yep. You can, yeah. It was the case up in where the guy died. They chased that 58-year-old guy, providing for 30 years for his wife and kid. He ran up the.
Are you talking about the farm?
Yeah, he died. He fell through that and then died. And they arrested a bunch of people who they lied about what they were doing. They said he threw something at them, didn't do it.
Yeah. So what you're talking about right now is
a guy who was protesting.
Is a marijuana farm where there were 8 or 9 unaccompanied minors there that were working illegally on a marijuana farm. I don't know that we want to leverage that as the best reason for them doing wrong, because child labor, illegal child labor is exactly what ICE is supposed to be cracking down on.
But do you worry about people just being disappeared? Like, I don't know who they are, so let's just stick them somewhere, and nobody will let them know for 3 days. Oh, and by 3 days, we don't know what's happened. I mean, this idea that we're not in a country where people are disappeared. You know what I mean by people? And, it's...
What exactly do you mean by people being disappeared, though?
You should be able to get a hold of them within 3 days. People can't, even U.S. citizens. They can't contact
the illegal immigrants?
Them. No, U.S. citizens. Yeah. Check up. There was a professor up at CSU Channel Islands in custody, in isolation for 3 days. U.S. citizen. No contact.
I appreciate you bringing this up. We'll have it pop up on the screen.
Yeah, I would look that up. But yeah, he's a U.S. citizen. There was another U.S. citizen who was concerned that somebody was getting arrested. They said he swore at agents. They disappeared him for 3 days, and now he doesn't want to let his mother walk out of the house because she's elderly, and yeah, she's a citizen, but of course her first language is Spanish.
Did these people commit any crimes? Were they interfering with a federal operation or anything like that, or no?
He swore at them, but they let him go.
He swore at federal agents while they were in the middle of a raid?
Yeah.
So was he interfering with the raid? Because that's against the law.
Swearing?
No. Interfering with a federal raid,
I don't think
that's
he was
against
swearing.
the law.
He didn't touch them. He didn't.
You said he was swearing.
He swore.
I think you're misspeaking.
Yeah. I don't think swearing is. I mean.
That wasn't my question. My question was he interfering in a literal federal operation?
No. He saw somebody breaking a window.
That was just a question.
He saw somebody breaking a window who was masked. Okay. He said, "What the hell are you doing?" And then they grabbed him, stuck him in jail. A citizen who was born here for 3 days. No word on what he was being charged with. And now he goes home, and he has elderly parents. He doesn't want them to go to the store without them.
What you're describing, it does. I'm going to look this up, and we'll have it pop up on the screen, because that's the goal is to be honest about what we're talking about here. What you're describing does sound like somebody interfering with a federal operation, and that is against the law. But I mean, hey, I'm not saying that. I'm not going to hear simping for the federal government, so you could be right.
If you had police arresting somebody, and somebody over here said, F you, what are you doing? They're not going to throw them in jail and not anybody contact that person for 3 days and not let anybody know what facility they're at, them see a lawyer, them make a phone call.
The federal government's it's a different category when it comes to enforcement, but they can't do that's assuming that all he said was F you, and they picked up, hey, you know what? You could be right. And hey, you know what? I have no problem saying if that is true and that's it, okay, denouncing that, But this is kind of like we're getting into the weeds here, where it's like, you could bring that up with law enforcement, and you could say, at Huntington Beach, a police officer did X, Y, Z, and James, this is why it's wrong what they're doing. You're like, your argument is like, it's wrong that they're like cracking down on crime in the city. I'm going to say, well, I disagree with that guy right there, but I don't disagree with the entire mission. Does that make sense?
Right, sure,
Okay.
sure.
Am I being fair right there?
I just think that there's a more order. This can't be the best we can do. I mean, we're a country of smart people who are empathetic, who are educated, who care about other people, who care about what's going to happen. This can't be our best.
Is it a lot better? Is this not a lot better than the last 4 years, or no?
Well, I mean, the number, if you're looking at the number of deportations, Obama deported more than anyone. I mean, he was the deporter in chief.
Yeah, I can clarify those statistics actually. Something interesting about that, there's internal removals, which is much more difficult, and that's what you're seeing right now in blue cities. By the way, they're having to track these people down because the local governments aren't working with federal agents. So they're having to go to, Home Depots and all these places. Other places, they can go pick up criminals in jails and whatnot, right? But, internal removals, and then there's returns. So returns are at the southern border. So when it comes to, like, Biden's going to have a lot of returns because they returned a lot of people, but they also imported millions, right? So returns bumps up those numbers. I know I'm being a little bit autistic about this, but I just want to clarify.
I see. My thing is, I understand that there's different definitions to that. It's just there's one other thing that strikes me, and I'm not. This isn't an argument. This is just something to throw out for thought. People in the U.S. make roughly for those kind of jobs 5 times in a day what you'll make for a lot of jobs in Mexico. When you nowhere in the world are you going to do you have that kind of wealth and that kind of poverty in one border? This is probably the best. I mean, I'm not suggesting you should how to do it, but the best thing that causes people to immigrate less from Mexico is when their economy goes up. I mean, we can do this all day long, but if people are making 5 times more, the best thing that's going to happen for them is for their economy to go up. That's the only long-term effective thing. And so we can keep going on this and, taking money from other things and dumping it into, outer space, and black hole for this.
Wait, hold on. Outer space is pretty neat, isn't it?
Well, Never Land, throwing all this tax money into Never Land for a problem that's inherently not solvable that way.
Last thoughts for any of you guys. Priya, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the economic argument is plausible enough to essentially give companies the okay to exploit cheap labor, essentially pay them slave wages simply because they're undocumented, right? We're encouraging that type of behavior on top of encouraging people to come into the country illegally, breaking basic federal law with no repercussions. And then if you look at the burden on the economy, a lot of these people are sending the money made in the US out of the country. So that's also increasing inflation, hurting our economic system. So
I agree. I think we should go after employers.
Okay, so we're getting some agreement there.
Yeah, I think it's exploitive. I think the low wages
suppresses wages as well.
Yeah,
it doesn't compete with my wages. It competes with people in construction, all that stuff.
I think employers is where you have to go after it. But I think a lot of the stuff that's happening around here is, this is for reality television. You know what I mean?
Busting child labor at a marijuana farm, is that
having somebody
that's reality TV?
The way they put it on television, the way they're doing it in LA is like for an audience. What's his face?
Hold on, you could be onto something here. Does that not advertise that they're cracking down on illegal immigration, and could that not have something to do with the border crisis evaporating?
Okay.
What are your thoughts about that?
I'm gonna take the temperature up a little bit.
Hit me. Oh, don't physically hit me.
Okay, and then I'll bring it down.
Okay.
Steve Witkoff said that people can be entertained for the first 2 hours of the day watching deportations. So basically, sadistic people can watch a bunch of Mexicans getting beaten up for 2 hours at the beginning of the day. I don't think that's our best selves. I don't think that's the people I think there are a lot of people who do get a kick out of it, and I think there are a lot of people who kind of like seeing it.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of serious
I don't know if that
people.
was my point. My point was advertising to the world that you do not come here because we are enforcing immigration law.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
I'm not saying, I love watching, people being arrested and their parents or family members crying. Like, that's a bummer. But we also have laws and we're enforcing them.
Yeah,
last thought,
okay.
because we're going on a little bit too long. We'll let you take it away. Last thoughts.
About
whatever you want.
I think
Maybe to the audience.
I think we didn't talk about it now, but I think the most important thing that it's not just Trump that I think is a problem. Medicaid, Social Security, Medi-Cal, people should be, I mean, you got elderly parents, you're anywhere from 40 to 50, you got elderly parents who might have health issues. You really, really need to be aware of what was in that big, beautiful bill, because unless you got lots and lots and lots of money saved up, you're going to have a very hard time when your parents get older.
You're bringing this up because I want to talk about this so bad, but we have taken you for too long.
We've got baby boomers, and this is, unless you got like $100 grand just sitting around with nothing else to do with it, and you already own your own house. You know, I don't know many people like that. I'm from the Midwest. But
work requirements for able-bodied individuals, getting illegal immigrants off of these welfare programs. I agree with it, ma'am.
I don't think that a lot of people are working, though.
No tax on Social Security. I mean, it's amazing if you're bringing up older folks. It's amazing for older folks.
Getting rid of phones for Social Security so people from rural areas can't get a hold. They have to drive to a city. A lot of people who are elderly can't drive that far.
The phones is your thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, and laying off people at the VA, laying off people
I want to unpack this with you, but we gotta get other people to talk to. I'm not even doing this just because he gave us the 15-minute mark, so I was like, okay, we gotta wrap this one up.
YouTube channeling?
Yeah, we're trying to get a bunch of different perspectives.
Okay.
So we're gonna have you in the video, and we really appreciate it.
Okay, I didn't want to get off on immigration because I actually think
we spent the whole time talking about immigration.
Honestly, I think Social Security, Medicare, and
What's your name?
Ann Johnson.
Ann?
Yeah.
James.